कभी करती हैं मुलाकातें, कभी करती हैं मुलाकातें, कभी यादों में बरसातें, किताबें करती हैं बातें, किताबें करती हैं बातें। मन की गहरी झील में कूद जाती हैं कभी, सोच के दरिया के संग संग बहती जाती हैं कभी। चाहे शाम हो या हो रातें, किताबें करती हैं बातें।
Hello and welcome to Kitaabnama, Books and Beyond. Today we have with us Shongita Bandopadhyay, one of the most explosive writers to have emerged on the Bangla writing scene over the past decade. Good to have you here, Shongita. When your latest novel to be translated into English, Panty, came out originally in Bangla, what was the response like?
I was thinking of writing about an enormous freedom and about expressing someone's individuality in such a way that all the social obligations which a person always be into will be removed from the context. The incidents will be very, incidents will be less, and it will concentrate on the feelings of a human being when going through certain experiences. So while I was trying to put it down as a novel, I was searching a new form to actually write it down. That is the way the Panty has come up, because it is less descriptive about the incidents and the details happening. It's about the pure experience which comes, pure emotions and feelings and understanding which comes out of the experience. So that is what I was trying to talk about, and of course I was very much willing to talk about that absolute freedom also, absolute individuality of a person, of a being, and the constraints of the being a again being a, which sounds very cliche, but it's about being a woman in that period of time. It's I have written it 7 years ago, so that was different time. The time has with these 7 years, time has again changed to a lot extent. So I was trying to portray a woman who is looking for an absolute freedom, and was trying to come to terms with her individuality, individual thoughts and minds. So that is about Panty.
Why do you think people and readers reacted so explosively to this novel? Because sexuality is not all you write about.
I don't know, because I think because the name is Panty, that is why. Because even people who didn't read the novel reacted, but they don't have the right to react before reading it, before understanding what I am talking about. But they reacted only because the name is Panty. But what happened when the serious readers who went through the novel, they didn't find it that it's all talking. It's about sexuality only. It's about sexualism only. It's not like that. It's not all the way talking about sexuality. It has something else in it also. But because the name is Panty, the reaction was so strong. People could not accept, because this book was written in Bengali, as I'm a Bengali writer. I write in Bengali, and people they told me that they could not figure it out where from a novel who is printed in a printed matter, which is coming up in books, in news, in papers, in magazines, could have a name like Panty. It was like kind of they felt maybe their sense of what I will say is molested. What sense of
Offended. They're offended.
Yes. They felt that kind of the quote unquote in a bhadrata bodh got molested. They could not take it because it was very hurt and they had really a strong reaction.
Your work, you have published 11 novels so far, and there are many more of your novels which have come out in periodicals. You've explored a woman's effort to attain a certain kind of independence, and yet people seem to focus exclusively on the sexuality. Why do you think this is the case?
Yes, I wonder, because I have, take my first novel. It's about 700 pages. And the sexual descriptions which they talk about, that it's a graphical sexual description, it's about too much of sex and all. I have tried to, it sounds very weird, but I have tried to find out how many pages are there where I am talking about the sexuality, and how many pages are there where I am directly, describing, a person or two person having, sex. I don't find that I've written 600 pages where I'm talking about so many things under the sun. But people, I don't know, because people have a easy way of, sex as a subject is a easy way to reach people because it draws attraction, and that has happened with all the novels I have written. People have, pointed out only those portions which have, that are called erotic and all. People have tried not to understand the rest of the thing which I was trying to talk. They did understand the importance of a writer who is writing everything else and also the sexuality. The writer has the equal importance to all the matter he is writing, but with so much of prejudice and so much of openness is so less that people only judge a writer or try to understand her through that easy passage which actually attracts them also so very much, if not more than the writer is trying to communicate. They are attracting the communication towards them more from that subject.
In all your works, you've explored different kinds of themes. In Jogini, for example, you talk about destiny. In Shammohan, which has been translated as hypnosis, there are certain spiritual aspects to a woman's quest. You've been looking at various other things that affect a woman's life. How much of these come from your own life, and how have they affected you as an artist?
It will sound good if I say that I'm a very spiritual person and I have my inner journeys of extremely towards purity and all. I would not like to say that. Instead, I will say that I have been trying to write all those things which actually I'm not, which I cannot do, where I will never reach. My life is an obstacle. The life which I'm living is an obstacle, and my writing is what they say, that's a spacecraft which takes me to that different world which I would love to be in. So maybe that is what is happening with me, because I think I'm not being able to live. It's my dream lives which my characters are living. Only I wish I would have been that free to live like that.
The characters in your works, are they real people, or do you see them as embodiments of certain qualities?
When it is a character, no. It comes with, in Bengali we say the mudra dosh word. I don't know what the English is.
Idiosyncrasies.
Okay. So they come with that. A person comes with that. A character doesn't. a character doesn't probably come with that. A character have the essence of qualities. It has some qualities, but the person comes with that mudra dosh thing. So actually, which one is the stronger? I could not actually understand which one is the stronger. If a person is stronger with all his mudra dosh and becomes a character, or a character if you have to put life into it, plant life into the character, then you need a support of that kind of a person who has been some way or the other have been around you. You have seen a person like that. It has to be like that only. You cannot just, I don't think it's all imaginable. There has to be some kind of support, like the dhacha, there should be a dhacha.
The framework.
It
was Arundhati Roy, I think, who said that all writing is emotionally autobiographical. How much do you draw from your own life in terms of experiences or emotions or even actual incidents?
Yeah, I think emotional, the word emotional, you can, eliminate the word emotional. You can just directly say that everything is autobiographical. Everything under the sun, everything which is happening to your body, your soul, your mind, you are facing all your realities. You are facing your life with these three compartments. It's your body, it's your mind, and it's your soul. So everything is happening in that that Aadhar. What is Aadhar? Is
in that, yes, all right, in that okay. In that vessel.
In that vessel. Okay, so everything is happening to you, even when it is happening there in Peshawar. It's happening to you actually. So the whole world is actually you. It's concentrated in you. So everything is autobiographical. Nothing can be, nothing left out. Everything is
right.
within.
No, that's very interesting. As a woman who writes, you're inevitably labeled, I suppose, as a woman writer. What is the response of your women readers been like in particular?
To my surprise, not just because I write about the very urban women, very independent urban women, and who have quite a lot of exposure and who have seen life from a different perspective and who have lived their life quite to the fullest. So, but what happens, even women from the remotest of our, villages and all, they have come up to me to say that they have understood what I am saying. If not, they have liked, or if not, they have fully agreed, but they have understood what I am what I am writing. So that is quite a surprise to me, because what I feel, how are they understanding me? Because they don't have that exposure. They didn't get the chance to live such a kind of a life. So, but that yes, there have been a very positive reactions which have came from the women. Women have throughout. With men, what has happened, men are, I've seen little bit of mockery, maybe little bit of shining eyes in men, that oh, she's writing, she's a woman writer and she writes about explicit sex and all. I don't think men take me very seriously, but with women, there has been really, they have taken me quite with lot of love and I mean, they have understood me.
Your writing reads a certain kind of courage, let's say a certain kind of empowerment. Where have you drawn this courage from?
I have to be very honest in this. I need to say that the courage which I have written all this is not the courage which I have got from it's the other way around. I mean, it's not I have got the courage from my readers and I have written. it's about I have written, they have accepted, and then I have got another set of courage to write another one. But the main courage which I have written with all these books is actually the institution, the organization who have published me, because they have taken the liability of publishing me on their shoulders. They have put their long earned name and fame for years and years, maybe 70, 80 years which they took to gather. They have put it on stake because of publishing me at that point of time. So I completely owe to them that they have given me the basic independence and the courage to like I could be myself only because of them. That is a great thing which I have even to today, up to this day, I can tell you that somewhere I know if I'm writing trash or that I don't know, but if I'm writing really serious, I can go to any extent to write and they will support me and they will publish me. That is a huge thing for a writer. So I don't think that probably what has happened to me. I'm not actually writing for the readers inside. While I'm writing, I'm actually writing for my organization, because somewhere I believe that they trust me, they believe me. So that makes me to put down without hesitation whatever I want to.
Right. Thank you, Shongita, for being on Kitaabnama, Books on Beyond.
Today I have with me Maria Chaudhry, a Bangladeshi writer who grew up in Dhaka and now lives in Hong Kong. Her debut book is a memoir called Beloved Strangers. And one of the questions that was interesting to me was, why a memoir? Because quite often when we write something autobiographical, I think especially sort of women from our country and background, we like to camouflage it in fiction. So I was wondering why you chose this genre.
I think one of the reasons that I chose memoir is because as opposed to writing even though I actually think that the exercise of writing memoir is very similar to the exercise of writing a novel. But in a novel, you can play with plot and tension, and you can create tension by playing with plot and action. But in memoir, you kind of have to depend on the interior life of a memoir to create that tension. The emotional truth comes from, in the memoir, should be much more intense than the novel in many ways. And that to me was very exciting, the most exciting part about writing memoir. And I just preferred that for this particular book because there are so many emotional truths that I was seeking to tell through this book. So it seemed like the memoir was the perfect form.
So what compelled you to write about your childhood?
Well, I mean, one of the primary questions, the emotional truth that we just talked about, one of the truths that I was seeking and wanted to talk about in this book was, who am I? What's my identity? And that's something that I had to go back and start looking at from the beginning of my life. So that's why the book starts from childhood. Obviously, it goes a little bit into my young adulthood as well. But I had to go back to the beginning to really answer that question. So I had to pick from my childhood experiences.
So your memoir is about your childhood. I wondered why you picked the particular incidents that you did to illustrate or to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I wish I probably included more stuff. I mean, hindsight is always 20/20, but everything I picked, I think, I picked because those were the sort of relevant experiences in terms of the question that I'm trying to answer in this book, which is, again, who am I? What does home mean for me? What is my identity? And so I sort of handpicked the experiences that sort of goes towards answering those questions best. One thing I talk about in the book is religion. My father's religiosity. The opening scene is the book begins with the scene where my father is sort of asking us to say our prayers. And as a Muslim, you have to say your prayers in Arabic. And of course, you sort of memorize what all the surahs are and all when you say your prayers, but I never understood them. They were not explained to me. So even though I knew that praying was obviously a very sacred act, I never felt connected to it because I had no idea what I was saying. Nobody had explained to me any of the surahs or really what the benefit was. I was just told to pray. And it was an extremely alienating experience for me. I mean, having to pray 5 times a day. But at the same time, I knew that I can't say anything about this, you know. So a lot of the homelessness that I talk about in my book is actually metaphorical. It's a homelessness that's more emotional than physical, a rootlessness, so to speak.
So when you grew up and started moving away, you moved from Dhaka to New York. I was wondering, did you find a rootedness that you were looking for? Did you finally come home?
I would have to say yes and no, because like I just said, for you know, when I was a child and when I was a teenager, I kept thinking that, okay, you know, everything around me is sort of alienating. There's all these cultural expectations, social expectations, religious expectations that, you know, I don't always relate to. And not everything was alienating, but in the context of the book, the experiences I talk about were alienating. And, you know, I kept thinking, well, if I can just start my life somewhere else in a new country with a new society and a new culture, perhaps I'll reinvent myself and ground myself in a different way. But then as I come to experience and as I talk about this, that, you know, moving to America was no more grounding for me. And I think at the end of the book, what I've really come to terms with, what I come to terms with in the book is that I'm okay with this rootlessness. I think that is who I am. And that's, you know, it's more of a, I reconcile myself with it rather than find a home.
I think it's a very South Asian trait to maybe perhaps glorify our families, especially our mothers and fathers. And you've managed to have a very sort of critical appraisal of your childhood and growing up and growing away. I was wondering if that's something that is because of who you are, or is it the writer in you that has managed to sort of take a step back and, you know, have that sort of objective and really sort of take a mirror to your circumstances?
I would have to say both. As a writer, obviously, writing is a very analytical exercise, and I'm writing a memoir, and in my memoir, I'm talking about my relationships. So, you know, I can't possibly expect to do that in a superficial way and sound credible and relatable. But at the same time, I think it's also about you know, the way I personally perceive my relationships with my parents. I mean, I have utmost respect for them and I love them, but it would be abnormal to not acknowledge their humanity, which means that they are both good and bad, that they were not perfect parents, that they loved me but at the same time damaged me, you know. And I don't love them any less for it, but I wanted to talk about it. I needed to talk about it. So that's how I would put it. It's, yeah, both at a writerly level and at a personal level, very important to acknowledge that your parents are not gods, you know.
Your prose is very precise and beautiful. I was wondering, how did you learn to write, or do you learn to write?
How did I learn to write? Actually...
Or does one learn?
No, I was just going to say that I don't think one can. I think you do it, and you do it because you really want to. And of course you get better at it too with time and practice, but essentially you do it because you really have something to say, you know. And as for writing a memoir, like I said, you know, that was a literary choice that I made. But I do think, I really do believe that writing a memoir is not that different from writing a novel in terms of the writing aspect, the literary aspect. You're just sort of doing the same thing from a different angle. And memoir, as opposed to autobiography, has a very, you have to give it a novelistic treatment if it is to be a good memoir, you know. You obviously are presenting facts, you're dealing with true facts, but you still have to make it, give it enough tension. You still have to present it in a way that is dramatic, and that's what fiction is. Just like fiction, even though it's fiction, has to be credible, which is the given part of memoir, but then memoir has to have that tension and drama that fiction does. So it's very similar in my mind.
A lot of people, you know, aspire to be writers and write, but how do you actually get published? I mean, what was your journey?
I was unusually lucky. So I started writing this memoir when I was actually in graduate school, and I did have the first draft of it finished, so to speak, but I really wasn't doing much with it. You know, I was at a time in my life when, you know, I had kind of shelved it for a while and I was going to come back and work on it. But then an excerpt got published in Bengal Lights, which is a literary journal based in Bangladesh. And someone from Bloomsbury read that, and they contacted me, and the rest is history. So I was very fortunate.
I was wondering about your writing process. You know, what are your writing habits? Do you write when you feel like it, or is it a very disciplined exercise for you?
It's a disciplined exercise for me. That's something I've had to learn. You know, I think as a person, I'm not always disciplined. You know, I'm very spontaneous and I'm impulsive, and yeah, but I've really had to cultivate disciplined writing habits, and I write every day for a few hours, and some of that writing the world will never see, but I still do that as an exercise.
And finally, what's next?
Just started working on a novel, yeah, but it's very much in the beginning stages, and I'm also working on some short stories, but really actually trying to concentrate on the novel now.
Well, thank you, Maria, for being on Kitaabnama, Books and Beyond.